Okay, kids, it's time for another episode of the Fueled by Weird podcast, the only podcast that follows the way of the warrior. I'm Chris Daly, and today I'd like to welcome Aaron Wroblewski to the show. Aaron, how's it going, man?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Doing great. Yourself?
How's... I'm doing good. I'm so glad to have you with me. I'm glad we could finally get a chat. If I remember correctly, Gerald was the one that hooked us up together.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. He's done a variant cover for us. So I asked him who who's the best at the getting some podcasts going, and he shot me your name.
Very cool. I appreciate that. Gerald is a real cool guy. I just talked to recently, so that's very cool. I'm excited to
Sweet.
talk to you, man. Okay, so I usually like to start these things off with an icebreaker question, just to kind of break the ice. So today's question is, what's the worst haircut you've ever gotten?
Oh, it was back in Scotland where they were rushing. All I asked for was like a three all over,
Yeah.
and they gave me a one all
Oh
over.
no.
Yeah, it was terrible. I
That's
had to wear a hat for like weeks.
oh, that sucks, man.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's probably my worst. As you can tell by my good look in my locks, I don't really have a lot.
Oh yeah, we definitely have a similar hairstyle, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, it's yeah, that's bringing it back. Yeah, so that was my worst haircut.
Nice.
Hopefully, not to be repeated.
I think for me, I know mine definitely won't be repeated. But my mom back in the early 90s, my brother and I both had the same haircut, and it's weird because he's like 6 years younger than me. And she used to do kind of a mullet, but not really. So we really didn't get a say in how our hair was cut. It was just this is how mom wants our hair cut. And it
Yeah.
was it was long all over, but like long in the back, so kind of like a ducktail in the back. So it was almost like a mullet, except it wasn't short in the front. It was just long all over. And it was super weird how she'd kind of have them cut it up here to cut it a little bit shorter, but keep it long in the back.
Mm.
And that was a haircut I always was super embarrassed to have. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
it
I've
was
never had
awkward.
long hair. Never. I mean, I get to a point where my hair just kind of puffs out to the side.
Yeah.
I look like a escaped convict from a
Oh
nutter
my
asylum,
gosh.
and I just
That's
have to cut it.
that's funny. Yeah, the longest I think the longest it would get in the back is just kind of like just down to the shirt collar, so it wasn't ever super super long. But
Hmm.
yeah, it was just an embarrassing haircut. And as soon as I was given the go ahead to do whatever I wanted, I'm like, we're cutting that off. We're going short. So
And then bold.
yeah, well, I attribute the being bald to being married and having two daughters. That's what I attribute my being bald to. It all kind of just migrated down. Very, very cool. All right, man. So when you're not writing, when you're not making comic books, what are some of the things you like to do in your spare time?
Watch films, TV
Okay.
series, anime, science
Nice.
fiction, anything about with aliens or dragons. I'm pretty much like. Play games. I literally just bought a computer game yesterday for myself. Project Zomboid, and
Okay.
so I'm getting into that.
Very cool.
Probably a bit late to the game for that one because it's been out a while. But
Mhm.
yeah, that's pretty much what I dabble with. Most of it is working or writing.
I get that. Are there any movies or TV shows you're watching right now that you could recommend?
Um, I'm watching Silo.
Okay.
Um, I'm watching the June Prophecy,
Okay.
which is pretty good. I do want to watch the Penguin, but I've not watched that. I've got so many different series. I want to
Oh,
kind of
dude.
concentrate on that one. Yeah, I've heard it's really
Yeah.
good, so I'm wanting to like focus. Um, Me and my wife are actually watching All the Murders in the Building on
I
Hulu.
want to watch that so bad.
Yeah, it's so good, so
That's
hilarious.
awesome. That's
Yeah,
cool.
that's we kind of try and have at least one or two series that we watch together, and that's one of them.
Nice.
Because 95% of the ones I watch, she will not watch.
Oh, yeah. Here, I'm
Yeah,
right there with you, man. I know
yeah.
It's Murders, Always Murders in the Building is one I've wanted to watch. But the hard part is my wife will say, "Oh, I want to watch that," and so I'm like, "All right, well, let's watch it." Well, I don't want to watch it right now. I'm like, okay. So yeah,
Yeah.
my two watch list is super long as well. I know. I also kind of want to watch The Penguin, but again, my watch list is super long. Plus, I still haven't seen the Robert Pattinson Batman yet, so
Oh, yeah, you kind of need to
feel
watch
like I
that
need to
first.
watch that first. And yeah, like you with my wife, we have a couple of shows together that, we watch together. I think right now our show is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Okay.
That's our show right now. It's a show I tried watching a while ago, and I got a couple episodes and I'm like, ah, this isn't for me, but I decided to give it another try, and it's some pretty crude humor, but it's pretty funny. It's a
Yeah.
pretty good show.
'Cause I know
Um,
they're doing a crossover with another one we watched, which is
Abbott
Abbott
Elementary.
Elementary.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
That's so funny.
so that we're also very big on that show. My wife and I were only through about season 9 of It's Always Sunny, and there's like 16 seasons. We're not quite current yet, but we watched the crossover and it was hilarious.
Yeah, we haven't watched
Um,
that yet. It's
it's
on our list.
I won't spoil it, but it was very well done. And
Okay.
a lot of people will watch it, or a lot of people have been watching it and saying, "Oh, well, those guys from It's Always Sunny seem really nice. I'm going to go watch their show." But their show is like the polar opposite of Abbott Elementary. So
Okay.
you definitely Abbott Elementary being a very family friendly show, It's Always Sunny is very, very not family friendly. So that's
Yeah,
something that
because I
some
don't
people don't.
know Rob McElhaney, is that his name?
Mhm.
Who I only know him from Welcome to Wrexham because
Oh
I'm
yeah,
British, I'm
yeah, yeah.
football, and they bought Wrexham, which is
Mhm.
a Welsh team. So I only know him through that show. I know he
Yeah,
does the Sunny in Philadelphia, but I've never watched it.
yeah. He's pretty great in there, and that I recommend that show for people who have a little bit of an it they you have to have a kind of an immature sense of humor to watch that show. So if that kind of comedy is like up your alley, then that's going to be a very great show to watch.
Okay.
And also, like you said, 95% of the shows you watch are ones you watch yourself. One that I
Yeah.
currently am watching myself. I'm getting caught up on some older British TV because I'm a huge fan of British television. And the one I'm watching right now is The Mighty Boosh.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm
I've
I'm
not watched that one myself, but I've my friends back home, they've watched it and love it. It's
I'm a big fan
quirky.
of Noel Fielding. I'm a very big fan of his, and
Yeah.
I'm on the third season of that one, so I'm almost done with it. But
He's
yeah,
very good in stand-up.
okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I haven't seen any of his stand-up specials. I've seen some of the appearances that him and Richard Iowati did on the Jimmy Carr game show that I can't remember the
Mm.
name of all of a sudden.
Yeah, the uh is it 8 out of 10 cats?
I think that's what it is.
Or yeah, it's 8 out of 10 cats. Yes. It's
Yeah,
we usually
they're
watch the end of year special they do.
yeah,
It's
that's
hilarious.
yeah. I went on YouTube and I looked up all of the, Noel Fielding, Richard Iowati spots on that show and just
Yeah.
had them on repeat because they give him such a hard time. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's really good. Have you watched the countdown specials they've done?
I haven't watched those yet.
They're funny. You'd
That's
think
good.
doing maths and word puzzles is comedy, but the shit they get up to is freaking hilarious.
That's awesome. Yeah, I hadn't even heard of Countdown or the countdowns until I watched the IT crowd.
Yeah,
They do a whole episode about it. So I'm like, okay, what's this? And so I did a huge deep dive because like I said, I'm a real big fan of British comedy or British
yeah,
TV shows really in general, but that's very cool.
yeah. We usually, because we're over here, we usually get the like I said, the end of year specials they do.
Yeah.
Watch them at New Year, so
Hmm.
we kind of put them on the big TV and have a good laugh while we're chilling out. So that's
Very good.
our New Year's Day.
That's a great way to celebrate New Year's.
Yeah.
And I think video game for me, I just got a brand new Xbox and I've been super into Power Wash Simulator. It's it's just you power washing stuff in a simulation. And it seems really dumb, but there's some kind of weird itch in my brain that it scratches. And it's,
Mhm.
I think I spent like 4 hours the other night playing it just because you go through, you just like swiping with the power washer, getting everything cleaned up. And I was just like,
And then your wife walks in and goes, "What are you doing? I'm power washing this car."
yeah, exactly. That's exactly. And she's like, oh, okay, that's okay. And I've talked to other people about it, and I'm like, I just have this weird obsession with this game. They're like, oh, I totally get it. That game is like it's weirdly relaxing in a way. So
Mm,
if you ever want a weird way to kill a couple hours, that's definitely a fun game to play. It's a lot more fun than it sounds.
yeah. I mean, I used to have the Xbox One, which is now upstairs. My son
Yeah.
has it,
Hmm.
and I've not missed it because there doesn't seem to be much out for the Xbox
Yeah,
compared to a
it's
PlayStation. They have so
yeah.
many exclusive things, and
Yeah.
then Xbox has like nothing,
Yeah, Xbox seems
nothing of note.
they seem to focus more on the tech and
Yeah,
PlayStation seems to focus more on the games, which I kind of like. Um, but yeah, there hasn't been a lot of really like blow me away exclusives on the
yeah.
Xbox, other than the stuff that's been out for, a whole ton of years. But yeah.
I mean, I am looking forward to the Alien Isolation sequel they're
Oh
working
yeah.
on.
Hmm.
It's gonna be cool as
It
hell.
looks real good.
Oh yeah, that's gonna kick ass. That's probably
Absolutely.
gonna be the number one game of that year whenever it releases.
Yep. Yeah, whenever it releases.
Whenever it releases. I mean, if they've been working on it for like the last 10 years, I mean, it
Hmm.
can't be that far away from being complete,
That's what we think, but
surely.
then they'll, say, "Oh, hey, we got to push this back. We got to push this back." And they've been doing a lot of that lately, so you never
Mm.
know.
But I'd rather it complete and great than
Oh, 100%.
released. And there's been so many AAA games that come out and it's been like dead on arrival because they just had so
Absolutely
many
terrible.
bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a couple recently that were almost right after launch, they killed the game just because the feedback and the reception of it was just so terrible.
Yeah. I mean, my wife bought me the Cyberpunk 2077 for my birthday,
Oh yeah, I
but
heard about that.
because she bought it and I didn't have it until after my birthday and played it, all the
Yeah,
bugs had been sorted out. So
that's good.
I actually got to play the game and it was perfect. It was no
That's
problems.
awesome.
So it was like the timing actually worked well for me for
That's
once. But
that's awesome. I
yeah,
heard that game on launch had some issues, and
yeah,
I had the older Xbox One, so I mine wasn't good enough to play that one, but I just recently got the One X, so I can now play all the new stuff.
yeah.
And so yeah, that was one that was kind of on my list, but it was a little bit iffy for me just because of all the bugginess. Cool. Okay, so I want to take a ride now in the Wayback Machine and go all the way back and find out what it was originally that inspired you to become a writer in the first place.
The very first reason I started writing was my friends because we
Okay.
used to go to the cinema, our local. We'd go watch some films. I'd rip it to shreds. Say, oh, I wouldn't have done that. I would have done this differently. And they pretty much got tired of me bitching about the films that they said, well, why don't you write one? Or, shut up about it. So I started writing. I wrote three scripts for films, which I then have turned into novels. Um, and then I started writing a TV series called Enenra. I actually got picked up by an agency thinking they could shop it around and get it produced. Nothing really caught, nothing got, you know, no traction was established because I'm an unknown writer, blah, blah,
Sure.
blah, Mr. Nobody. But one of the agents actually said, oh, the story would make a kick-ass graphic novel. And they had an artist on their books, Ezekiel, and it made it into a comic for me. And that's how I started getting into comics. So all my comic collections are indie comics. I don't have any mainstream Marvel, DC, anything like
That's
that.
awesome. And there's some really good indie comics out there. My collection, I can't say is only indie comics, but it's primarily indie comics just because there's so many good ones out there.
Yeah, I mean everything I've got in my shelf is from Kickstarter.
That's
Everything.
awesome.
Yeah. Um. So that's how I got into comics. Writing. Ezekiel does the Ice and Bone. and Blood and Fire as well as Enenra. So he's my longest working relationship going about 10 years now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, speaking of Ice and Bone, that's kind of what we're here to talk about today. So, you've got the Kickstarter going on right now and it's doing fantastically. I think the last time I
Yes.
checked, I think you're pretty close to being funded about, I think it was close to 80, I think.
We got 79 backers, and we're about 69% funded.
Oh, nice. Okay. I must have got my numbers transposed, but
Yeah.
that's cool. That's super cool. You haven't even
Yeah.
had it launched for very long, have you?
It's tomorrow will be a week.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So, for those that don't know what Ice and Bone is about, let's go ahead and let's share with what that's about.
Ice and Bone started with Blood and Fire, which is a samurai supernatural action horror.
That's
It follows Nakaki, who is a honorable samurai who follows his master, and they are betrayed by his master's younger brother. There's a big internal fight within the family, um, and there's a lot of action, death, blood, guts. The typical samurai tale. And
yeah.
Nakaki kind of cuts through his way to revenge, with no mercy, pretty much. And then Ice and Bone kind of follows not directly after Blood and Fire, but it follows several months after the end of that, and then continues the tale.
So
No
blood and fire.
spoilers, no
Blood.
spoilers, but it's a lot of blood.
Okay. So, I mean, with a name like Blood and Fire, of course, you'd almost expect a lot of blood, right?
Yeah, I mean it's in the title. Why not?
Yeah. So Ice and Bone is the continuation of your story that started with Blood and Fire.
Yes, yeah. It Blood and Fire did actually start out as a standalone three-issue story.
Hmm.
And when I finished it, I kind of, as I was doing other projects, it kind of kept coming back to it. And then just kind of started writing. Actually, the title came first. Blood and Fire, Ice and Bone. It kind of fit really well. And then the storyline kind of molded itself around that, and I couldn't let it go. So that's why I'm back with issue two.
Very cool. So, where did the idea for this series come about? Like, where did you pull your inspiration from?
Initially, it actually came from Ezekiel, the artist
Okay.
for Anenra. He posted like a pin-up of a samurai on his Instagram, and I messaged, yeah, great artwork, you make a kick-ass, not comic series, and he said, write one. Like, okay, I will. So I kind of went away and started thinking about, the various um, st previous storylines that have been done. I always liked the revenge tale, and I kind of set it in the where Japan is fractured, the central government's lost control, all the warlords are kind of battling, for control and territories. So it's kind of fit right into what I wanted to do, where a family is fighting for survival, but they have infighting as well. Um, and then Ice and Bone kind of feeds into the why it happened, and you realize that the bad guy in Blood and Fire has had his reasons, and that gets explained in Ice and Bone.
Very cool. So it's kind of cool to think that it all just started just from a picture. That's
Yeah,
cool.
that literally it all came from one picture, and I ran with it. I jumped down the rabbit hole, and it took a while to climb up.
When you were looking for story elements, did you like look to specific movies or specific books or other media that way to pull your story together?
Well, I've always been a fan of, especially anime, samurai, like Afro Samurai,
Okay.
Samurai Champloo, and
Hmm.
things like that. So I've always had a kind of fandom to that genre, and to be honest, it didn't take long to actually write the story of Blood and Fire. Ice and Bone took longer because I'd already set Blood and Fire as a standalone, so it had
Yeah,
a finite finish. Kind of like, well, at the start of it, it was kind of like, how do I kind of go from there? So that took a bit longer because I didn't want it to feel like two separate entities. I
Yeah.
wanted it kind of flow, reasonably well together. Um, so yeah, the Ice and Bone did take longer to research and to write than Blood and Fire did. Blood and Fire was like I think I wrote that within a couple of weeks.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, didn't take long at all. And then obviously edits after that, but the main first draft didn't take long at all.
That's
Like
cool.
it kind of just fell in. The characters wrote themselves.
That's always so nice when just the pieces all just fall into place for you instead of
Yeah,
having to try to
yeah,
jam them together. That's awesome.
yeah. I
Very,
think
very
that's
cool.
probably why it's doing so well because I think the artwork is phenomenal. Ezekiel
Yes,
does amazing work.
I agree.
The act. That's why I'm looking forward to this one because though I try and put action in each issue, there's a certain scene in issue two that I am itching to see. I even I even did my own little interpretation in paint and like sent it to him with the script, and he even mentioned thanks for the the reference on page blah, blah, blah. So it was like, yes.
That's awesome. I know you sent me over the first issue of Blood and Fire, and it was so incredible. I'm so excited to read through the rest of this series and then start this new one. It's very, very cool.
Thank you.
Now, with Ice and Bone being a continuation of Blood and Fire, do people need to read Blood and Fire first before they jump into Ice and Bone, or is it kind of just set
I
up on
would
its own?
I would suggest yes because there's a lot that Ice and Bone references that you won't get. I guess is the reason why um Blood and Fire happens is explained in Ice and Bone. So if you don't read that, you kind of get lost in why are they referencing that. It, so you do kind of need to read the first three.
Okay.
Um, but I mean it's a kick-ass series. So if you like the first one, you're gonna love the rest.
Very cool. Now, with the Ice and Bone Kickstarter, is there a way to pick up a tier to, grab the issues of like Blood and Fire that they might
Yes.
not have?
Yes, yeah. They're
Okay.
all previous issues are available either add-ons or there's actual reward tiers specifically for the full series catch-up,
Very cool.
both digital and physical.
Nice. Now let's speaking of the Kickstarter, let's talk about that a little bit. What's some things that people can expect with the Kickstarter? Kind of what do you have running right now? Any kind of like special add-ons or extras or stuff like that?
Yeah, I do have actually a few of the add-ons here.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I reach in. We have special collector bags, which come in these nicely done poly bags. So
That's
you'll get
awesome.
the books in there, and then you'll get like I don't know if you can see that, like a
Yeah,
holographic sticker,
that's awesome.
uh, a magnet, which are pretty big,
That's
and
cool.
there's a coaster somewhere. I think it's still in the bag. Um, the nicest one is these little samurai
Oh, what?
swords with the stand as well. You get, and the title is etched in the sheath.
That's incredible.
So that's available. There's several different ones available. So there's three. Basically, each issue has a different sword. So there's three for Blood and Fire. That one was for the last Ice and Bone, and there's a white one for this one. So
Very
and then there's
cool.
and then there's this little dude,
That's awesome. Is that
which
just
is
like a
3D
oh 3D
printed.
printed? Nice.
I've painted it as well, so it looks like a statue.
It does. I was going to ask if it was a metal statue, but it's
Yeah,
3D printed. That's awesome.
all painted, ready to go, with a little stand
Very
with the
cool.
rocks in it too.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
Now with
So
the Ice and Bone series, do you have it kind of planned out like you did with Blood and Fire? Is it going to be three
yeah,
issues? Like what are your
it's four
plans?
issues. This one,
Okay.
Ice and Bones, all written, all completed. So this Kickstarter is for issue two. Hoping if this goes well, fingers crossed. Um, issue three will be launched in August, and then the last one will be this time. to 2026.
Very cool. And then do you have it kind of finalized, kind of like you did with Blood and Fire, just the whole story wrapped up?
Yep, yep, it's all wrapped up, it's all written, all completed. Um, I generally kind of go through it the week or a couple of days before I send the final one to Ezekiel, just to see if there's any spelling mistakes and stuff like that. But
Nice.
yeah, it's all written out, um, all pages ready to rock and roll, really.
Very cool. All right, people. So make sure you go over and check out this Kickstarter. We'll put the links in the bio or put the links in the show notes. We'll put the links all over everywhere. So you can go make sure to check it out. The Kickstarter ends on February 6th. So make sure you don't wait around and you go check it out while you still can. Now, another thing I want to talk about is your Samurai fan artwork artist zone. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yes. This is a brand new thing I'm launching with this one is kind of helping artists get more audience. So the back of the book, which will be in digital format only, it's not getting printed. So there's the world's your oyster. You can go as nuts as you want.
Yeah,
Um, so the back of the book will be an art zone, and there'll be all the pages will have each individual artist can submit a picture, samurai themed, um, and then at the end of that, it will be a dedicated page where all the artists will be listed with their social media, like with a QR code.
nice.
Um, and then, so if someone likes an artwork that someone's done, there you go. There's a QR code. You can go and find the artist. Um, so I'm not. I've got a few interested in this one. I'm trying to spread the word as much as I can.
Yeah, for sure.
See how this goes. If it goes really well, then hopefully it'll expand as more issues come out.
That's very cool. I know a few other indie comics guys who do that. I know I've got a friend who's gearing up for his next issue, who he's planning on including some fan art for his characters as well. And I
Yeah,
always think that's a really cool thing to do to kind of give back a little bit and kind of help, get other people out there, get other people noticed. I think that's a really cool thing to do.
yeah. I'll help where I can. I mean, I'm always involved in the indie community, whether sharing other creators' campaigns on updates in Kickstarter, or this is just something else I kind of help where I can.
That's very cool. Now, in case there's anyone watching that hasn't seen any of your Facebook posts for the Samurai Fan Artwork Zone, where would they submit? Where would they send submissions to?
Um, Find me on Facebook or Instagram. Just DM me. I do have a Blood and Fire uh Facebook group for the series. So if they join that, anyone's welcome. Just ping us a DM and I'll get you the details. You can submit an email address to submit the artwork. And that's it. That's all you need to do, as long as it's 8 by 10.5, because that's the size of the page.
Oh,
Because my
nice.
my comics are 8 by 10.5, like magazine size.
Perfect. Well, I'll help make sure we spread the word on that as well. We want to see a bunch of cool art, samurai art pictures and samurai
Yeah.
art in your book because I'm friends with some amazing artists. So I think this would be a cool opportunity for them to, if they have the time, to get some samurai art cooked
Yeah.
up and
I mean,
get
there's
sent
there's
over.
no real deadline. I mean, I don't need the artwork until
Yeah.
probably June,
Okay.
July. So that's kind of
Plenty of
when
time.
I might be, as soon as I'm getting close to finishing, the digital uh send outs. So that it doesn't have to be within the deadline of the campaign. It's really the deadline of when I need to send the files out to the backers.
Gotcha. So there's plenty of time then. That's
There's
cool.
plenty of time. Yeah, as long
Very
as you can
cool.
tell me you're interested so I can send you reminders, that's the main thing. So
Yeah.
if you are interested, please tell me so I can like make a note and write it
Yeah.
down. And then I can send you reminders like, okay, this is going to happen in like a month, a couple of weeks. Are you still interested? You got other projects you need to do first? Then, I can kind of feed that feedback back to the artists. I just need to know, firsthand to send those reminders.
For sure. Communication is key.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right, man. So, after you wrap up this campaign with issue two, what do you got next on the horizon that you can talk about?
The next one is Ep03, which is a supernatural horror. I launched issue 2 last year. It didn't fund, unfortunately. I believe it's kind of more time frame. It was like around Thanksgiving, Christmas period on on the back fence. So
Wow.
I'm hoping this time around, if launching it around late February, early March, it will crack that funding goal.
Nice.
And then after that is Enenra Part 7, which is my apocalyptic horror. Um, that's been really strong and pretty good following. So fingers crossed that does well. And then hopefully Ice and Bone number 3. That's
Very
uh
cool.
that's my jam. I do have a science fiction horror I'm working on in the background.
Nice.
I'm not sure when that's going to be ready to launch, so hinting at that, but nothing for sure, nothing in stone yet of when that's going to be released.
Fair enough. Sounds like you got a pretty busy 2025 then.
Yes, yes, I'm hoping very successful 2025 too.
Absolutely. We definitely want it. We definitely like hearing that for sure. All right, man, before I let you go, I always try to get my guests to share a bit of advice for people who want to be creatives. What's some advice that you share with the listening audience?
The biggest thing is join the community. Go on Facebook groups, and especially on Kickstarter, like back other people. Try and get a good community spirit going. And don't be afraid of failure. I've had Kickstarters that have failed, shall I say? Blood and Fire, the first issue, didn't fund, but the reason, I had some advice from other creators, which is again why you need a community.
Yeah,
Because I was holding things back from for that Kickstarter for the next one, and they was like, "Why are you holding anything back? Go all in."
let it
So
all
that's
out.
what that's what I did,
Yeah,
and I got it funded. So yeah, you don't be afraid of failure. Um, it's a kick in the balls. It sucks,
sure.
but it's that's the name of the beast. I would not be here without Kickstarter. I could not do what I love doing without the amazing backers who give their hard-earned cash, to help me fund my dream. And I'll be always humble about that. I do not take it for granted. So when I fail, I'm like, okay, what did I do wrong? How do I improve it? And come back. They are probably the biggest advice I can give. And ask for help. I mean, I asked other creators to look at my campaigns for Ice and Bone and my other one for Amor Patrice, and they gave me a lot of notes to make it better. And you can see the rewards I'm getting for the campaign I'm getting now. So even I've been
Yeah.
doing it for years, and I still ask for advice. That's why you need the community behind you. It helps a lot.
Absolutely. And that's what I found that's really cool about the indie community is there's so many cool people out there who are willing, more than willing to help. You just have to ask.
Yeah,
Like you said, you shouldn't be afraid to ask because, if you run into some kind of an issue or roadblock or a problem, and you can't figure out how to fix it, you know, chances are there's going to be somebody else out there who's been where you're at, who's
mm,
faced that issue or that problem before, and they can help you get over the hump.
yeah, and even just like sorry, even just like a second pair of eyes
Yeah,
on your campaign. You might have
absolutely.
spelling mistakes and stuff all over the place, but you're blind to see it. So you get
Spelling
someone else in.
mistakes or you forget
Yeah,
something on a tier or the shipping is more than the tier cost or whatever, just some other weird, crazy, random thing. So yeah, just something as simple as just a second set of eyes is a really cool thing. Absolutely.
yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, sir, where can we stay up to date on project coming from you? Where can we find you on social media?
I'm on Instagram. That's probably pretty much my main uh, avenue. So Wroblewski Aaron, um, and then I'm on Facebook. I've got all 3 of my books have their own groups. So Blood and Fire, Ice and Bone has its own group. I've got an Enra and a More Patrice. So if you type them in the search, you'll find us.
Very cool. And before I let you go, I want to make sure we thank Pizza Force, or we thank Polygon Horizon for their song Pizza Force. That's the song we use on the show. Go check them out on Bandcamp. They're a great band. You can find this show on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, as long as TikTok's still around for. Just type in Fueled by Weird. You can also send me an email at fueledbyweird@gmail.com. You can find the show on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also now find me on the Spotlight Media GA app, along with the rest of the Stay Weird Network shows, the Nerdy Manroom show with Hassel and Monster, Hassel's Review, and Big Rob's House of Entertainment and No Chinese Food, plus a bunch of other cool shows that we're starting to drop on there. Now, the Stay Weird Network, it's a brand new podcast network dedicated to bringing some awesome back to the internet. Make sure you check us out at Stay Weird Media on YouTube and Instagram, and you can email us at stayweirdmedia@gmail.com. And one last thing, I want to thank the Zone Collectibles in Tifton, Georgia. They're the sponsors for my show, and they're the one-stop shop for comics, collectibles, and so much more in the Tifton area. If you like the show, please leave a review and tell your friends because word of mouth is my friend. And remember, kids, life's too short to be normal, so stay weird and make sure you check out Ice and Bone issue 1 and 2 on Kickstarter. It ends on the 6th. And make sure you click on the link and share it with all your friends. Aaron, thanks so much for joining me tonight, man.
Thank you much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.